to Wales. Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Foderingham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box to Doffin, he can hit them, and he does. The Doffin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Good evening. Welcome again to New York Talk, the Rotherham United podcast. We have a point. We have a point on the board. Another point on the board takes us out of the teens into the 20s. 1 point closer to survival. Only 19 points left to bridge gap. We'll talk about a 0-0. Quite a drab 0-0, but plenty to talk about, I suppose. Up the Millers. Mick's back. How are you doing, Mick?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Not bad. You managed to get a bit sunburnt today in March, it seems.
It looks like it, doesn't it? What can I say?
Oh, God, you've started it off so horrendously.
Yeah. It's more interesting than talking about Rotherham, you know. Tom's back. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good. Happy to be back after the somewhat... I couldn't show my face after the 5-0 defeat, so I thought, I'll at least do it after a 0-0.
Yeah. It's the heady heights of a 0-0 you've turned up for.
Yeah.
Danny's back. How you doing, Danny?
I'm doing good, thank you, lads. How are we all?
Good. Very, very good. We've got people with us. Aaron's with us. Sorry, Show. Still Martin Holland, YouTube user. Alfie, Darren Cook. Loads of people with us tonight. Right. Positives. We'll start with this bit because why not? Happy, funny, positive moments. Made you smile from the game. I will start first because I always give you guys time to think. My one is in the first 2 minutes of the game, Mick had a shout at the linesman. Now, the linesman got the decision correct in terms of giving Huddersfield a throw, but because the linesman wasn't looking, Mick shouted at him. Me and the blood experts were just laughing because he got the decision right. Yeah, but he weren't looking. It don't matter. He got it right. It don't matter, Mick.
He didn't give a throw, did he?
Oh, he did. Well, whatever the decision was, he got it absolutely right.
He guessed it were right, didn't he? Because he never even looked.
Fair enough. Make anything positive.
It was funny, really funny. And I remember my wife pointed this one out to me when I got home, and we discussed it at the time, and then thought, well, how bad must your team be when you're actually singing to put Danny Ward on? That tickled me at the time, and it amused me when my wife pointed it out to me as well after when we got home. So, yeah,
good, like it.
Times are tough.
Harsh on Danny Ward, but okay. Danny, anything from the game or around the game?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to go for the blatantly obvious and say Sorba Thomas getting sent off. About time an opposition player got sent off.
Yeah.
Fair, yeah. Craig says, I like this. This is the kind of thing we're after. Positive. He says the German food stall outside the ground was phenomenal. Worst. Oh, okay. That's what we're after. Joe Stone says, the ref giving their player a card for diving. We'll come on to that. Tom, anything?
Don't know, a bit of a sentimental one with Ben Wiles coming back. It was, nice to see. That's, we scrape the barrel nowadays. So
You old softy.
yeah.
He got a good reception
one of us. Yeah.
Well,
at least it's been mentioned.
Yes. Right, let's move on to the game, Mick. 0-0. Not a classic. Falls into that category of about almost 46 games of not classics for Rotherham United this season. Two poor teams come up against each other. We'll talk about the specifics again in a minute, but it was an okay performance. It was a better performance.
Yeah, it was, without a doubt, in my view. It wasn't a great performance by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a massive improvement, in my view, on what we've seen in the past two games. There was no shortage of effort, in my view, from virtually everybody on the pitch. As you point out, we lack quality. Certainly, like we don't look like anything going forward. We've got zero attacking threat at the moment, but overall, I thought the performance was really good, really decent.
Tom, do you agree? Is it a step forward in performance, or was it a Huddersfield team that are not very good?
Bit of both, obviously. I think at parts we were good, but I agree with Mick. I think the final third quality is just so obviously not there at all. The change in formation was interesting, and the four at the back isn't entirely. I don't entirely disagree with using that going forward. I don't know if I'm the only one there, but I quite like a four at the back as a three. I think it suits us a bit better. Cafu on the wing is one thing to talk about. I don't think he was bad, but I think I definitely think that we miss pace in areas in the final third, and I think that we miss. Well, yeah, we miss a couple of players that we used to have, and now we don't. And I think it's very obvious now where we need to improve. But it's weird because we've got a clean sheet in a game, and nobody's mentioned anything. I think it's like our third one of the season or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And nobody mentioned anything about it, which just goes to show that how bad Huddersfield were, really. So yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword where it's cool. We had a clean sheet. It's great. No, but nobody's happy about it because of how much you feel like we should have gotten something out of that game that wasn't just the 1 point. So, yeah.
Yeah. Mike Connor says Huddersfield are rubbish. That's why we look not bad. That might be it. Danny, look, we ended the run of 9 defeats in a row. It's our 3rd point of the year, which has been pointed out by many. Tom said we did change formation. I think he was forced into it because of hacks, to be honest with you. So we can all sit here and credit him, but I think he was forced into it. But it worked. For me, it worked and it didn't, because I thought Nombe looked better out wide. I thought he looked better out wide. He was able to use a bit of pace. But we were getting torn to shreds in the wide areas. Kyoso and Revan were just so isolated. So from that point of view, it didn't work, because if they were a better team with better wide players, we'd have been in serious trouble because there was so much space for them to exploit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like I say, Revan and Kyoso started getting isolated when we were on the defensive term, but going forward, we seemed a lot better in the wide areas, like getting balls into the box, and just unfortunately no one was there to meet them. I think it was might have been Mick on the post match that said if it were earlier in the season, there's someone there for rebound on Riminosa's chance and picking up second balls from crosses into the box. But defensively, we were stretched pretty thin in the wide areas, and I don't know, it feels like this change in formation, even though it was, like I say, possibly because of Axe's injury, it felt more like how Richardson wants to approach things, and it felt like the way that he knows, weirdly. And I think if we were higher on confidence, we wouldn't have been as isolated out wide. But like I say, if it were a team of real quality in the wide areas with pace and physicality, we'd have been in some serious trouble. Thankfully, it was Huddersfield though. But I think even though Revan got praised for some of his performances in the second half, in the first half he felt below par, in my opinion. I felt he was muscled off the ball far too easily, and he felt very. How do I explain it? He felt just not part of it, if that makes sense. Like, it didn't feel like he was on the same wavelength as everybody else, but in the second half he picked up massively. And maybe that's something Bramall could have done better in the first half if he was completely fit. But it felt more like what I've seen of Richardson's Wigan team against Huddersfield. We just don't have the cohesive ability to make it work completely. I think it's the best way to word it.
It's a kind way of putting it.
Yeah. I could have worded it a hell of a lot worse, but I think it's cohesive ability that's just not there at the minute.
Yeah. Kelly Pub says he wasn't forced into it. He left Hacks out to change the shape. He said he's tactical. He said that he left Hacks out because of some bumps and bruises, precautionary, left out bumps and bruises. Because if Hacks was available, Hacks should have played. I said it on the instant reaction. As it turns out, he had picked up a knock, so I take back that it was a crime. Still odd that he didn't come on for 10 minutes at the end, because if he's on the bench, he should be able to do 10 minutes at the end, where he would have made a difference. But Lewis just said it wasn't necessarily tactical, the reason he took him out. It allowed a tactical change, but that's not the reason Hacks didn't play. I don't know. Shirley says we weren't good by any means, but it's a coincidence that we change formation and don't defend for 90 minutes and we don't lose. Yeah, Mick, I suppose he's right, but we're going to come back to this over the next 50 minutes. They were a poor team, and they were with a man down for over half an hour of the game. And I've already mentioned a minute ago, I thought we were really vulnerable in the wide areas earlier in the game. So although it was better, I still think, I don't think it's necessarily just because of the formation change or that we didn't concede. I think it's because of a couple of other factors as well.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, let's not beat about the bush. You know, Huddersfield are the football definition of a one-trick pony, aren't they? Yeah. You know, it's Sober Thomas, and that's it. That's all they've got. They've got nothing else. You know, nobody else that's going to influence the game. So once they lost him, that was basically them done in an attacking force. But we didn't take advantage of it. But yeah, I mean, the change of formation. I'm not going to say it worked, but the result suggests that it does. It did, doesn't it? It didn't allow us. I didn't create any more attacking threat for us. Whether we play 5 across the back or 4, the attacking threat is still not there at the moment. I think it was Tom mentioned it earlier on. It's about the lack of pace in the team that's causing that problem. And what it did do was it forced, and it was a bizarre situation. We talked about this during the game. It forced Peter Chioso to just stay as part of that back four, and he resolutely refused to go forward. Where Seb Nevin was a lot more progressive down the left hand side. You know, I think Chioso, for some reason, refused to do that. I suspect, given the fact that he went off with a hamstring injury, I wonder if that's been troubling him in the run up to that, and might be why we didn't get forward down that side. But I think somebody mentioned in the comments earlier on, you know, if we are going to play that formation, we need actual wingers, and there aren't any. We haven't got any.
No.
Yeah.
We haven't.
Yeah. Martin Miller says a damning view on Huddersfield, Mick, and yet worse, so worse. Probably. We'd have probably lost. Do you think Tom would have gone into lose? Had Sober Thomas not been silly with 11 men, I felt like it was edging towards a classic 1-0 90th minute goal from Huddersfield, because they don't have much more quality, but Sober Thomas was obviously the best player on the pitch. So they did have those moments where you thought, they might be able to open up us in certain areas. And did you think they'd have been able to get over the line with 11 men?
Well, I mean, from past experiences, yes, but that's only because, you know, past traumas and whatnot. You know, I feel like every Rotherham fan has no confidence in seeing out a game in any stretch of the imagination. But like you say, Sober Thomas is there. I know Mick said one trick pony, so I don't know what we were. Zero tricks. But yeah, theirs is that he's got a fantastic delivery. If they get free kicks, corners, just him out wide and get a ball in, they've got big men, and that's their way of playing. So as a Huddersfield fan, I'm sure that you fancy your chances against any team, because you can do that against any team and get lucky, get, you know, a good header, etc. So yeah, you would have been worried, but yeah, I'm just going purely off of previous experiences, and you don't back us to hold on to anything really, a lead, a 0-0 and anything, and it's a mentality thing, it's a psychology thing, and yeah, without the sending off, you wouldn't have backed us, which would have made it a bit more interesting if we would have got the 0-0, which sounds so depressing. if we would have got with 11 men, do you consider that a better result, or because they had 10 men? Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's personally, I think the fact that we had, it was 10 men for 30 odd minutes, and we still didn't create much of note. Actually, it's an interesting proposition when Mick says we've got no wingers and we've got one sitting on the bench. We sent one back in Jan, didn't replace him, and when we've got another one who was out for a year and didn't replace him. So it's you say it's an interesting one. We say we've got no wingers, we've got no pace, but we could have. We knew that we did need it, and we still didn't improve in those areas. So whether it's recruitment or what, I don't know, but they've definitely missed a trick there, because we never replaced the players that left us last season. The Barlasses and the Ogbennies. It's difficult to replace players like them, but you can get like for likes, and we just didn't do that.
No, we didn't. Right, let's stop dancing around. Let's talk about the red card, because I'm sure Mick will want to come into this in a minute. But we'll start with you, Danny. 2 yellow cards for Mr. Thomas. Funny, because I think I'll talk about the referee in a minute. I thought the referee had a poor game just in general. We got everything from the referee, but I think he got both yellow cards probably spot on. You can argue the first one because Will Volks 2 weeks ago did exactly the same thing and didn't get booked. But he shouted at the referee, had a go at referee, he got a booking. The second one, he clipped Ollie Rathbone. It could have been a straight red, to be honest with you. That's his last still on goal. So I understand why he didn't, but it's a nailed on yellow card. And I think referees, as much as I don't think it was a good game, I thought he nailed both those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I said on the post match, if Thomas having a go at the referee happened earlier in the game, I don't think he would have booked him. He would have just told him off.
Yeah.
But because it happened later in the game, around 50 minutes or so, I think it was. Obviously the refs felt he's had half time just to settle and come out in the second half. He's having a go. It's like, no, I'm not having that. Which is a shame because it highlights consistency issue again in refereeing as a whole. Like you say, Volks didn't get booked for it, but Thomas did. And then the booking for the challenge on Rathbone, that's a nailed on yellow card. Arguably, like you say, arguably more. And it's a shame for Huddersfield because you can't appeal 2 yellow cards, can you? No, shame. But I've got no complaints. I think the one in the first half on Clucas, that was a bit more of a then, whether it were yellow or red card, in my opinion anyway. Because from where I was at, it was off the floor, 2 feet going in, but studs up, so it was a bit.
I need to watch that back because my first instance was. I'll tell you what my instance was. Me and Mick were sat next to each other. Mick goes, "That's our throw," and then ref blew his whistle. We both looked at each other and went, "What the bloody hell's ref gear?" Because it just looked like I did. We're at the other end of the pitch, but it didn't even look like a foul to me. But anyway.
From what I saw, both pair of studs were up, and he was completely off the floor. So you could argue it's out of control and a red card, but he got the yellow. But anyway, moving on. But yeah, I think by Thomas getting sent off, it like we said about Huddersfield, I think a one-trick pony is a little bit harsh, but also valid at the same time. That's eliminated their playmaker completely. And if anything, I'm more disappointed with us that we didn't jump on that. And at times, it still felt like it was 11v11, and even at times, it felt like we had the man sent off because Huddersfield just ramped it up even more, and we just couldn't deal with it at times. And I'll be honest, I had flashbacks of, do you remember the MK Dons game? And we were 1-0 up, we got my man sent off, and we lost 2-1. I had flashbacks of that, and I kept saying to Russ, "We're going to score here, I can see him scoring," but thankfully he didn't. But yeah, I think that's why a lot of people left disappointed with a point and a clean sheet after a losing run, purely because they were there for attacking. I thought, but once again, we had no attacking intent. I think it was 1 shot on target, which is still that's absolutely disgraceful at home. I know we're repeating ourselves, but it's absolutely.
Running motors didn't count, did it? Anyway, at post that don't count as a shot on target. It's although it don't count, it's almost 2, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah. 1 shot on target at home. It's absolutely disgraceful.
It's poor.
And it has been for
against 10 men.
Yeah, against 10 men as well.
Mick, I feel like letting you loose on this referee, but I don't know whether how are you going to go on this one. It was Look, I'll repeat again. I thought it was a very, very poor refereeing performance, but we benefited for the first time ever. We benefited from everything. Every decision went our way. I felt like, other than maybe an odd corner or something like that. Thoughts on Mr. Smith? I think he's called.
I think he's like the anti Gavin Ward, isn't he? He don't give the petty little stuff, but makes the big decisions. It's difficult. It's difficult because looking back, I can remember thinking, well, why is he giving us that? Why is he giving us the other? You know what I mean? But now thinking about it, I can't remember a decision particularly off the top of my head that was so wildly wrong. You know, there were a lot of niggly little fouls that were given, which ordinarily go against us.
Yeah.
And yesterday they went with us. So ultimately what you want from a referee is to get the big decisions right. And if you're going to judge him on the big decisions, I think he had a good game. Because he got both of them absolutely spot on as far as I'm concerned, or all three of them. Absolutely nailed all three of them. The rest of them, yeah, he made some mistakes. He definitely made some mistakes. And we probably got the rub of the green. However, we deserve the rub of the green for the next 20 or 30 games, quite frankly.
I thought you were going to say years there.
Well, after some of the poor decisions that have gone against us. So, but yeah, the first yellow card for Sorba Thomas, nailed on yellow card, absolutely. Dissent for having a decision go against him, bang on. The second one, I think there was a covering defender. Having watched it back, there's a covering defender, so it's a yellow card, no question about it.
It took a long time to give that, to be fair to referee. Again, going back on what I just said and criticised him, to praise him, he took his time to make sure he got that right. I always had a conversation with his liner. Yeah,
absolutely. And so then the elephant in the room here, and I've seen a lot of the comments, is the penalty decision where he booked their player for diving. And I see a lot of people saying it's a penalty, definitely. I put this question to you. Why is it a penalty? Answer the question. In the comments, tell me why it's a penalty.
I can tell you why it's not a penalty.
Yeah, I can tell you 100% why it's not a penalty. Tell me why it is.
For me, it's a penalty. Rinomhota's left his leg there, and if we can all just say whether we think he left his leg out, there is absolutely contact, and Rinomhota's left his leg out. If that's the other way around, we are saying it's a nailed-on penalty.
No,
we need to take his rolling iron glasses off here. That's the other way around.
Genuinely, hand on heart, if that's the other way around and we get a penalty for that, I'm pretty embarrassed by it. And I'm not sure where in the laws of the game it says that you can't leave your leg out.
You can't leave your leg out when somebody's running towards you.
There is no. Well, it's not a penalty. It's not a penalty.
Okay.
The opposition player, whoever he is, has tried to instigate contact. He's had a bad touch of the ball. The ball's run away from him. He's put both his feet together and tried to leap over Rinomhota's leg. Unfortunately for him, I don't think he's made any contact with him whatsoever. He's put both feet together, made no contact, and thrown himself on the floor. Not a penalty in a million years. Absolutely, the referee got that bang on right. Bang on right. If there was any contact, the Huddersfield player instigated that contact. It was nothing to do with Rinomhota. He did it himself. So he got that bang on right. And I'll put my hand on heart. If Jordan Hugel does that, I'm criticising him on this podcast 100%.
If it's Hugel, we would, yeah, probably.
I don't care, or whoever it is, because that is not right. It's not a penalty.
Doing this is a 50-50. I think I'll come to you, Tom, in a minute, but for me, I don't think it's a shocking decision either way. If he's given a penalty, I wouldn't complain about that. It's either a penalty or a dive. It's one of those. There's no middle ground for this one. It's a penalty or a dive. Referee's made a decision. That's kind of fine. But if he gave a penalty, I wouldn't be complaining about that. Tom, what do you reckon?
I see what you're trying to say, Mick, but I agree that I think it's sometimes petty that players do instigate the foul themselves when they're doing it. but he does touch him, and he does make contact, and I think it is one of those where, you know, if it happens in the other box, you are asking for it.
I'm
You
watching
have
it
to.
again.
We're gonna get slow-mo. All right, real time
Yeah,
when it happens. Yeah, when it happens, real time from the rest position, it looks like he's tripped him up, and
That's what I
I think the fact that he's given a I think the fact that he's given a dive and given him a yellow card, fair enough. I think a lot of refs wouldn't have done that. I think a lot of refs would have just gone, nah, whatever. We're just going to leave it at that. I don't want to make a decision. But I see what you're trying to say. I think it's tough, but I think on that occasion, I think he just does trip him up, and it's he just because he has his hands up and he's backing out. I think it's a foul. I think it's a penalty. I think even if, I just
There's no contact. I'm just watching it.
There's
There's no
absolute
contact. It doesn't make contact with him.
There is.
No.
Danny, I think this maybe sums it up. We're on this point, we're 50-50, all of us. And that maybe sums it up that you can't really criticise the referee because he's got a 50-50 decision to make and he's picked one of those two decisions. It might be right. It might not be. We only got two angles. It's not like VAR, we've got like 7 different angles. It is a tough one for us to call, and he's picked one.
Yeah, just to add a little spice to it, I'm probably in best position bar the referee because it happened right in front of where I sit in North Stand. But for me, when you watched it in real time, everyone were like, "Oh, that's going to be a penalty," that because we've seen them be given time and time again. But I'm in mixed corner with this one. Their player instigates the contact. Riminota's leg is there because he's challenged for the ball. But during the challenge, he's not made contact with the player. It's as the player's gone over him, he's made the contact, felt Riminota there, and then gone down. So I think ref's absolutely right. It is a dive because he's felt the contact and gone down himself. It's not Riminota that's forced him down.
You know what it is. You know what it is. It looks like he's touched him. I understand completely what you're saying with the no contact. From the replay I'm watching now, it looks like he's made. I know what you're saying. He is. Before he gets to Minamoto's leg, he's gone down. Fair enough, I'll admit that. But the way that he goes down and the way that it happens and where the ref is, I'm so surprised he hasn't given that.
Yeah, very.
And
I was fully expecting the penalty because it's happened time and time again. But then suddenly it's a free kick our way and a booking to their player. It felt like we scored a goal in North Stand. That's how surprised we were.
It's it's easier to give those fouls than to not give them.
Yeah, I found myself going out yesterday saying this referee is rubbish. We've spent half an hour essentially praising him, which is weird. Anyway, Mike Miller says, right, you don't necessarily have to make contact toward a penalty, which is true.
Absolutely. And to be fair, when you look at that in reality, there should have been a foul on the edge of the box.
But Kyoso fouled him before that, yeah, he did.
Kyoso did foul him all whilst he didn't make contact. He altered it. He altered his course. He altered his run. But he didn't go down then because he wasn't in the box.
Yeah.
And what he did do was took a poor touch, saw it taking a poor touch, put both his toes together and fell over, essentially. You look at his body shape. As soon as he realises that he's made a hash of that, the control of that ball, both toes go together, pointed towards the floor, and off he goes with straight legs. That is an absolute nailed-on dive. Referee, bang on the money.
Fair enough. Scott Kent says Penn was wrong. Definitely, Mick. Damien Corey says the referee was poor, but got away. Harry says it was a penalty, tripped him up. Phil says was a penalty because he stuck his leg out. Damien Corey says thinks it's 50-50. Mike Carnell says 100% not a penalty because he just stood there and the player dove over it.
Just said it was a foul by Kyoso, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's two. YouTuber says anticipated and went down. Look, I think it highlights the difficult job the referees have got. Again, defender don't like it. Anyway,
the bottom line is, if referees did that more often, whether there's contact or otherwise, and got a few wrong, then players might start to think twice about throwing themselves on floor.
But Ian, which we had the conversation again later on in the game where I can't remember what the decision was, but he made a decision which we said in Powers diving. I can't remember what it was in the second half. But you can't give that as diving, and then you know what I mean. Mike Miller says, in my view, if either decision was made, in my mind, it wouldn't have been a glaring error. I think Mike sums it up pretty well. It it was one of those where referee couldn't really lose. He's got a decision to make, and either way, it would have been. You could argue it either way. Any other ref talk before we move on?
No.
The one thing I will mention is when this was later on in the game, it was the same player who nearly got sent off for the challenge on Klukas. He gets injured on the side of the pitch, has already gone off, and then comes back on, and referee goes over and gives him a right rollicking to the point where they actually sub him off, which I thought was quite funny. Can I change my quite funny to that?
Yeah,
he dealt with that very well, and that's something again that we've called for over the season and probably over the years, where players get injured off the pitch and then just utch their way back on to stop play. I thought the referee dealt with that really well. Off sunshine.
Yes, it is. Fair.
It's a good game.
Yeah, an okay game. Let's not get carried away, mate. You know what I mean? It's just go steady. Damien Dunkley says, can we mention how that most of the players never clapped at the end, only 2 or 3 always clapped, and he says it annoys him. We had another comment on here from somebody on Twitter, basically saying the same thing. It was from Chris. Says, what are your thoughts? Only 4 players. When did they clap the crowd? Can we really blame people for not turning up when there's a rift between the players and the fans? Again, Mick, I was stood next to you and I told you exactly what my thoughts were. I'm not going to repeat it on here, but I was very frustrated. Victor always comes on. We know Victor. Sean Morrison came over. Sam Nombe half came over. And there was one other player we should mention, but I can't remember who it was.
Rathbone, I think.
Rathbone. Yes, it was Rathbone. Those 4 came over and clapped the fans. Victor did it twice, I think. But they came over, clapped the fans. Everybody else wandered off. Really poor from those players. And also, Richardson didn't come out pre-game either. Richardson come out pre-game every game so far. It's not home and away, and he didn't come out pre-game as well. So it was not. I'm not digging Richardson out, but it was a poor show from the players. We've got a positive result. It's only a 0-0. We've got a positive result, and I just thought it was poor. Sorry, before you come in, Mick, Bramwell. People are saying Bramwell.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I said to you, "Don't worry about it." And I've had 24 hours to reflect on it. It was a poor show. It's a poor show. No matter what's gone off on social media, etc. And the players are obviously aware will be aware of a lot of the stuff that's been said and probably think stuff here kind of thing. Which you could argue that they've got a point up to a point. But it was a poor show, that really. And a bit disappointing.
Yeah. Kiwi says, would you applaud somebody who booed? I don't think anybody got booed.
Well, I think that's what I was trying to say. It's a good point.
Were there a booing yesterday?
Well, yesterday there wasn't, but there has been over the past few games. And I'm not. Well, let's not get into whether or not it's justified or otherwise. You know what I mean? But yeah, I found that a bit disappointing. Now, at the time, I weren't more interested, to be honest. But yeah, it's not great.
Scott Kent says it shows how far the club is apart from the fans, and it just sort of sums it up, Tom. To be honest with you, it means nothing realistically. It doesn't mean anything because it's just it's an essentially empty gesture. The fact the players probably don't, even if they come over, they don't necessarily mean it, but it just shows something. And what are your thoughts on it, Tom?
I completely agree. It's an extra 5-10 minutes out of their day at the end of the game that would mean that all of this doesn't happen. And you know what? Maybe even get a praise from fans if they do. So it just makes no sense. And it's this whole culture change. It needs to happen. And I didn't realize about the Richardson thing, that he'd been to every game, home and away. I mean, that's good. That's great. That's the kind of culture that you want. And to not do it yesterday, Jesus, it was only yesterday. To not do it yesterday is shows where the culture's at. And even he's not quite, shifting it himself. He's got to be the person to change it all. And he sounds like he's trying to. And it's who knows? I completely get the sense of if you're booed, why would you want to at various points? But football's a weird thing. It's different to any other sport, job, whatever. You get booed one game and you'll get absolute hounding, and then the next game, if you turn it around, you'll get an absolute praise. Football fans forget game to game. They really do. So it's just one of those things where I don't think booing comes into it, because maybe every game, and if you were winning and you were booing, I think I don't know, Leicester fans booed when they drew 2-2 against someone. I remember that. And that's when you think, well, I'm not going out there. You know, we've tried our hardest, we've drawn, we've not even lost. But, you know, if you get a 5-0 spanking 2 games on the bounce and and then your fans boo when you go off to let, you know, the thoughts be known, to then not boo the next game. And that, yeah, it's just, it can get very messy. But with the booing thing, it shouldn't come into play. So if it has, I'd be very, very disappointed. So yeah, but it's football's a very reciprocative culture. I think that's
It sounds right, Tom.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been a long weekend. And if fans are giving it, players give it back, and if players are giving it, fans give it back, and that is where the culture lies, and it comes from the manager, the players, it comes from the fans, and all sorts. I know there was empty seats yesterday, and that's come from because we've been quite poor recently, essentially, which I don't think anyone really minds, but it's interesting now. It'll be I mean, we've been saying it for weeks. It'll be interesting to see what happens next season, because currently the culture is shifted a long way from where I think every fan wants it to be.
Yeah, 100%. Josh Smith says players and fans disconnected. Sonny Stewart's not there again either, which was on Club MS at the minute. I thought from the spin a positive, Danny, it shows the players who kind of want to be here. You know, we've on this podcast sort of dug out Sean Morrison a little bit, not necessarily because of his performances, but for kind of other things as well. I think yesterday kind of showed that Sean Morrison really does want to be here. He was one of the leaders of coming over to the fans of that very small group, but he was obviously the leader of it. So I think for me, that kind of, it didn't change my perspective on him, but it certainly elevated him as a captain, as a leader, that he was willing to just make a bit of an effort. And I know that's a low bar, but I was very happy with that.
Well, on the last podcast, I sort of laid into Sean Morrison a little bit and said, I dare him to prove me wrong, because against Norwich, he just didn't seem arsed. And I can definitely say against Huddersfield, he did seem arsed. He's pulled it round massively. I looked at Paul Davis's review article of the game, and yeah, Morrison really was the leader on that pitch. Obviously, he made a few mistakes here and there. You know, he's not a robot. He won't have a 100% game. Nobody will. But he sort of stuck his head above the parapet a bit and improved. I think Morrison had the biggest jump in performance improvement. All right, in the long run, probably not good enough over a period of time. But from Norwich to Huddersfield, he improved massively. And like you say, he led the little group over that clapped the fans. I think deep down they know it's still not good enough, but like we said, there were no boos at the end of the game, and you know it's a bit of a reciprocation that
See, it's tough.
Just making words up here. What's cracking up here?
Reciprocation's a word, behave. But that little group, they were just thanking the fans for sticking with them, I think, and still turning up. And you've hit nail on head there. I think it shows the very minute number of players who actually care and want to be with the club and to right the wrongs. So yeah, we're going to be playing 5-a-side by looks for it next season. But at least we've got a goalkeeper, so that's something.
Till he leaves for note. Yeah, we should just touch on the attendance. I think Scott's put some in the comments. The attendance was 11,000. Absolutely no chance.
Ain't no way.
11,053 or something. I assume that the club just automatically count all season ticket holders as in attendance, because there was no way. This ground only holds 12,000, which means it would be basically full with 11,000, and it was not nearly full. Yeah, I don't know what to add on that, but yeah, it was crazy.
There were no way there were 1,000 empty seats in that ground. There were at least 3.
Yeah,
at least 3,000 empty seats.
Yeah, it would be nice to know the actual attendance yesterday. Yeah, how many were, because I'd be very interested there. Well, we'll never know, obviously. Yeah. Let's talk about some individual performances. Mick mentioned Nombe a bit earlier, but I thought right hand side it kind of seemed to suit him really, because he was able to get the ball more when he played striker. And we saw it with White yesterday. That I felt like he occasionally isolated, but we were trying to play out wide, and I felt like it didn't. Without doing anything, which again sounds harsh, but without doing anything, I thought Nombe looked a bit more comfortable having the ball a bit more yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't impact the game particularly, but when he did get the ball, he was progressive with it and got forward. Unfortunately, there was nobody in the box usually when he got there to put the ball in there. So I don't think he had a bad game at all. Not at all. And I find it difficult looking back at it to think of anybody that did. Anybody that particularly didn't stand out.
Lucas was quiet, wasn't he?
Lucas were reasonably quiet. I thought Kioso probably would be the one that I would pick out to say I didn't have a particularly good game. But the rest of them, I thought they were pretty decent. But again, just ineffective going forward. That's where we fall down, over where we fell down yesterday. So I thought we were all right. All right, not a problem. Yeah,
just all right.
Very early on that in that respect.
Yeah, no, I agree. Nicola Juice's Rathbone was more like his old self yesterday. Even Cafu turned up best with Sin Cafu. That's Cafu all over, mate, Tom. Just pop that ball up at top for what led to the red card was the best ball of the game. It was such a good ball. But then there was a lot of other things in the game where you thought, bloody hell, what are you doing here, Cafu? We did that Rabona cross he attempted.
Yeah,
was just a bit mad. I mean, just keep it simple. When you need simple things. But there's obviously a player in Cafu, and yesterday makes it frustrating because there's something really special there. But it comes out two times a game if we're lucky.
Yeah, and left wing isn't his best position by any. And it's weird because he's a luxury player, and we can't have luxury players in this. And by luxury player, I mean someone who isn't quite going to work off the ball, someone who's going to pick up random little bits and pieces, drift into spaces, play those little flicks, those tricks, do stuff that nobody else on the pitch is going to do. But we can't afford that. If we're thinking about where he could play, it'd probably be where his best position probably be where Rathbone was playing yesterday, just behind the striker. But I think the way that we need to play with a bit of a press, a bit of energy, he can't do that quite as well as Rathbone does. So he's obviously an interesting player. I think if he does sign on in League One, then I think he'd be a really good asset. Although I can't see him being signed on, but yeah, he's just interesting. I think he's one of those players where technically he's one of the best at the club, but you only see that in minute little waves of, every 3 games you'll see a minute wave, and it's like, wow, okay, this is where he is. Crack on from here. And then he'll go back to just ghosting out of a game, and you won't notice him for a couple games. And it doesn't help that he hasn't been starting, I guess. Little cameos won't help him. So a start maybe is what he needed. But yeah, he's definitely an interesting player. He reminds me a bit of Fosu, but Fosu was a bit more direct, I think. I don't know. And a bit quicker, a bit more of a winger type. So don't know if that's a really rogue shout there. Just thinking back on it, but yeah. He's clearly a good. He clearly has got a player in him, which is why he was at Forest and Olympiacos and all that. But yeah, it's just not quite worked for him, has it, in the long run?
No. It seems now, looking back, Mad, that Matt Taylor thought we had room for a luxury player.
Yeah,
there's some other types of players we probably should have brought in rather than Cafu. As much as he has been good in spells, I suspect those wages he's on could have been spent really, really well somewhere else with a different type of, Ben Wiles type player. I know Ben Wiles were off it for us, but that kind of player, we really, really missed that kind of driving run from the midfield. Having said that, though, Danny, Rathbone does deserve a bit of credit. As I mentioned in the comment, I thought Rathbone was not back to his best, but certainly on the road to be back to his best. He was given a more aggressive role, to be fair. I don't think that's a coincidence that he's given a really aggressive role, and he does quite well in it. He had the only shot, which was a really good effort. I feel like he's maybe on the way back to his best, hopefully soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think with Rathbone, we've said before, it seemed like he was panicking too much. Not really pursuing the ball, but just chasing it, like properly chasing tails with the ball and not pursuing it to win it back. Whereas against Huddersfield, he just seemed a bit more calmer in himself. I don't know what Richardson said to him or whether he's had a word with himself or what, but it was so much calmer, and he wasn't frantic with stuff. He was very composed. like you say, not back to his best because we know how good he can be. And if he's with us in League One next season, I think we will see him back to his best. But I think everything that's happened this season will have took a toll on him. But I think if he can keep his level of composure, not necessarily on the ball, but in himself for future games, like I say, he'll just keep building himself back up ready for pre-season, I think.
Yeah. Nick, obviously we were 0-0 down to 10 men from the 57th minute or whatever it was. What went wrong in terms of not being able to take the game? Does Liam Richardson deserve a criticism for not taking a risk with 10 minutes hacks, a bit more time with two strikers, maybe Eves and Wyke or whatever else? Do you think it's down to him, or was it just the players are where they are in terms of confidence-wise is the reason?
I think he should have changed it earlier. I think you were calling for it almost straight away after the sending off, and I think you were right. We needed that width, we needed that pace out wide. He put a Pyre on, which in my view was a good call because he is a winger. But then within 10 minutes of him coming on, he's put him into the middle. So you know, I know there's a lot of criticism of having a Pyre from a lot of people, but he's played as a wing back. He's not a wing back. Defensively, he's got no. He's not a defender. You know, he's a winger. He's an out-and-out winger, and I think he probably played this season 5 minutes, maybe 10 as a winger. The rest of the time, he's been shoehorned in somewhere else. He's never ever going to be able to get any sort of momentum when he's been completely, shifted about. So, but we needed that width, and he brought Colin Bramall on in the end. But then moved a Pyre inside, which, at least move him onto the other wing, perhaps. I don't know, which would have given us that width. But yeah, we didn't take advantage of it, not at all, And that was a disappointment. But we've got nothing going forward, have we? We haven't had anything going forward for 3 or 4 games now. I don't know. Yeah, he should have changed it, I think, earlier. And try to wrestle the momentum, in our favour and get that ball forward more, but didn't happen.
No. Shelley says 100% it should have changed earlier, take advantage of the extra man. Sariki wanted to get forward. He should have made an appearance earlier. I thought it was a positive. Well, again, he didn't do anything with it. It was positive in terms of his forward runs. Nicola just says, think we should have made a change straight away. Bramall sooner would have been better, and Lindsay in the midfield.
The problem there, sorry, Matt. The problem with bringing Sariki on there, he's still playing as right back.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Not playing as a winger. So therefore that leaves you light at the back when you're playing 4. You were only left with 3. Then you're obviously then left with 3 at the back, and that doesn't help. So yeah, it was positive, and he did want to get forward. Unfortunately, it left us short at the back. So if you're going to bring him on as a winger, because he's clearly got the pace and he's clearly keen to get forward, or play him as now winger.
Yeah, no, I agree. We did put more crosses in, Tom, and this is the frustrating thing from yesterday. We put quite a lot of crosses in, but I don't think we won a first contact, and I would be surprised if we won a second ball all afternoon. So it's all right, Sean Morrison pumping it in box. Those long throws are brilliant. But there's nobody there to win those headers. There's no Woody. There's no Michael Smith. There's no anybody like that that's going to Sean Morrison who's going to get on the end of them. It's all right. We've been calling all season to put crosses in box, and maybe seeing now why we haven't been doing it, because there's nobody in the team that can go win an header.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's why Wyke was brought in, right? And then I don't know. I think what's mental is that at the start of the season we were all joking about Eves, this, that, and the other. But I genuinely think every time I see a team sheet and don't see him in it, I don't see a goal, and it's mental because he's the only player that actually looks like he can score, and it was him and Kelly for most of the season that you'd say that about. Even with Wyke, I think Championship's just a step above his pay grade. I just don't think he's quite got it. And I think that's shown from that Rinamoto chance where hit the post, and I think that rebound has to go in. I understand it's on the stretch, and it's he's competing with another player and this, that, and the other, but he's got to score that really. And yes, Kelly was raw. Yes, he was, which is why he needed to go out on loan. He needed game time. He did not need to go though, especially because we were bringing in his replacement in Wyke. And that's not to say, he's hardly had a chance to prove himself. Absolutely, I think he puts himself about quite well, but he's not a player that we didn't already have in Hugo and Eves, which is I think is the issue is that it's just another type of the same player who maybe outside the box does all the right things, tries and wins headers, puts himself about a bit, but in the box they don't come alive. Hugo doesn't do that at all. He's not a poacher really in the box, and Eves is the only one that you think if the ball gets in the box he'll score, because that goal against Blackburn where it's a proper diving header. I know he missed a chance earlier on in that game, but it's just he's one of those players where he's our only striker really that you look at and think, okay, if the ball's in the box, you'd fancy him for a chance. And I mean, what minute did he come on? 72. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's just one of those things where if I don't see him starting at the start of the game, then I just don't think that we've got a goal in us until later on, because I don't think we do. I can't see Wykes or Eves or Nombe really finishing anything that comes into the box, which I know that you say that this is why that we haven't been crossing into the box. I don't think it's that. I think it's definitely been a tactic not to cross it into the box and to keep it and recycle and wear them down, find that little neat pass and whatnot. But we absolutely need a player in the box who is going to do something in the box. And we've been playing Hugo all season, and Nombe, who when the ball comes into the box, you don't really think that they're going to win any headers. No. I don't know. It's just interesting. I think we definitely. I think this tactic is, we should sling balls into the box, and I think Huddersfield's a weird team to start doing that against. They've, as I quote Mick again, a one-trick pony of their kind of physical play and aerial battles. So to do it against them with their three centre halves who are quite good in the air, you're not going to get much change out of them. But that shouldn't say that we shouldn't be doing this all season. We just need the players to do it. I mean, again with Bramall, there was no real final ball delivery there. Now that we have Kyoso and Revan in, their deliveries are a bit better. It's just, it's about getting it right, and I think we've got it right at wrong times and so wrong at the right times, basically. But yeah, going forward, we need to just keep doing it, but play the right players, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If you mentioned, go on.
Sorry, Matt, just on the Georgie Kelly question. I spoke to somebody at work who's a Carlisle fan earlier on this week. Asked him how we're going. He's out for the season with the same calf injury that was out for the season with us, or out for a long period of time with us. So I wonder. I suspect that might have had some impact in why he went on a permanent rather than a loan. There he is. He's not played a minute for Carlisle, I don't think. But certainly not for the full game. But I mean, he's out for the season with the same calf injury that he had with us. So I don't know, maybe I'll put some context in it. I don't know.
That makes it the Wyke sign. You can think what you want about Charlie Wyke. That makes it a great bit of business from the club. You've got a guy who's gone, who you've got some money for, who couldn't play a minute for you anyway, and you've got a guy on loan who you can look at for next season who has been available for basically every single minute so far. Who was probably as good as we were going to get in January, to be fair. Bear in mind who wanted to come to the club. So I think the Lynch has probably done the right thing there. But Danny, on Wyke, there's that chance in second half when he's on edge at box and keeper's well out of position. That screams a striker that's bang out of touch. Because any striker that's in half a touch, it's quite an easy finish certainly for a Championship or League One level striker. Just a bit of curl on it, just a bit of dip. Bob's your uncle 1-0 United. It just screamed, I'm not comfortable. I'm not happy.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those situations as a striker that you live for, because it's. I mean, all right. Just to play devil's advocate, the amount of Huddersfield players that just surround him straight away is terrifying. There's about 5 or 6 of them that just appear around him in a split second. But at the same time, he picks the ball up on the edge of the area, and like I said, a bit of curl on it. Bare minimum, he has to get a shot away. Absolute bare minimum, he has to get a shot away. But he doesn't. He dithers. He dithers on the ball, and then the chance is gone. And well, it's been story of our season, that, hasn't it? We've got the ball in a prime location, and we've dithered, and then it's gone back, and then the chance has gone anyway. And it's the exact same with White, but he has to shoot. He has to shoot. Even if he shoots and it goes nearer to corner flag, you have to get a shot away, because it's even worse if you don't, because it's prime striker territory, that area of the box. But like I say, it dithers, and then we just lose the chance. And like you say, it just says that the low confidence attitude of the team at the minute has affected him, and he's obviously carrying something by being out of favour at Wigan anyway. So I don't know, that must be affecting it. But it's 2 poor performances in a row from White now. So maybe Richardson needs to have a word with him to try and bring him round again. But then again, if there's any person who can do that, it is Richardson, because he's helped White through a lot tougher times than what he's experiencing right now. And even though he's not been the best so far this season, I do suspect he will be with us next season.
Yeah, possibly. I think it was similar with Michael Smith when sort of first season in League One, after he signed January, obviously, in League One. The season after that in League One, Paul One talked about just sort of giving him the confidence just to shoot. And that was really obviously Michael Smith. All he did was just shoot a bit more. And that's all it's all I want from Charlie Ike at the minute. Just have a bit more of it. Or just be slightly more confident in your own ability. You're a professional footballer. You can hit the target from those kind of angles. Just trust yourself a little bit more. I think there are parallels with that potentially. Clay Bob says he does rate Wyke. I think if Wyke's in League One with us, I don't think any of us are complaining. I think he's shown in the past is a decent. When he's confident, he's a decent League One striker.
He was top scorer in League One not so long ago, wasn't he?
Got a shed load for Sunderland, didn't he?
It was like 23-ish, around that mark, I think it was.
Yeah. He just, I don't know. Strikers are very weird breeds, aren't they?
What you've done is bring a striker low in confidence into a team low in confidence. It's not a great cocktail, is it?
No. Yeah, I think the reason Wigan offloaded him was wage, though. I think he'd been okay for them this season. 6 or 7 goals in 16, 17 games or something. It's not a bad return.
No.
It's not a championship return, bear in mind, but it's it's not the worst thing.
I hope he needs some service. He did. He got the service yesterday, didn't he? He had those 2 chances, the Rinamota chance and that chance as well. Just he'll come good for whether it's with us or somebody else. I'm sure he'll start scoring again. Because he's getting in the right positions, which is half of the job, isn't it? That's half of what you need from a striker. I suppose he is getting in the right positions yesterday. Finish on. I want to finish in a minute, but Mick, if we're not going to beat a 10-man Huddersfield, who are we going to beat this season?
Well, looking on X brackets formerly Twitter, for anybody who watches the BBC. The Plymouth fans seem to think we're going to beat them.
Do.
So that should be a laugh. I think that's probably going to be about -3 that game.
In front of 2,000 fans.
Yeah, of course, because there'll be no Plymouth fans there, obviously. Well, let's wait and see. It doesn't really matter, does it? Unless we win every single game between now and the end of the season, and everybody else loses. It's not going to make the blindest bit of difference. So, but yeah, I don't know. Well, who knows?
You watch. We'll get relegated, and then the game after we'll win. That's my prediction.
Well, that is probably about right. We'll be once it's all official, which is literally just a matter of time. We'll bang 7 in against somebody.
That was the most infuriating victory in history.
Yeah.
And then
Can I
it's
just-
a like hat trick as well.
On yesterday's game, just one more. I just want to pick out Andy Rinamoto, who I thought was outstanding yesterday. I know a lot of people have picked Sean Morrison as their man of the match. For me, I thought with Rinamoto, he was excellent. He was all over the place. He was into everybody. He'd got the passion, the fight, the grit, the determination, everything that we want in a footballer. I'm a big fan of that lad. Big fan.
Yeah.
It is one that I hope we pursue in the summer as well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yes. Harry says, is it possible for Preston relegation? Yes, but it's unlikely. So the Preston relegation would rely on us to lose. Birmingham and QPR would both need to win. And Stoke and Plymouth need to at least pick up a point by my maths. That's been wrong before, obviously. We'll double check it before the Preston game. So for 4 teams down there all to pick up results is obviously possible, but it's very, very unlikely.
I think it's just the Millwall lads, to be fair.
I think it's the Millwall game. Unless we win at Preston, then it may be delayed. We'll talk about this in 2 weeks.
And how big of a chunk of salt do you want to take with if we beat?
You never know. Never say never, except for this team. Anything else you want to mention, lads, before we knock this section of the season? Because we're in international break now.
What do you make of the Hugel and Thierry injuries? Have we spoken about them?
We saw Hugel after the game yesterday.
Yeah, we did actually.
He looked all right.
Yeah, he didn't look injured.
He went limping. That's all I can say, really.
Interesting.
It's not good. It doesn't have to be his leg, does it? Let's be fair.
Let's just throw some out there. We need a bit of content for a couple of weeks, Mick.
Oh,
Yeah.
Christ.
Come on.
He told us at car park you were refusing to play, lads.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's gonna get clipped out.
He don't want to play. That's the problem, Danny. I don't know why he don't want to play for us.
Yeah, refusing. It's him and Kyoso in cahoots.
They were both in car park saying, "I'm not playing for you lot again."
Although we do have an inside scoop that Jordan Hugel knocked over Victor's coffee and he was fuming about. So I reckon it's Victor that's injured him.
I don't think he mentioned Tihi or thingy in his postman. Obviously, Hacks was mentioned. I don't know. Yeah, hopefully it's not serious. I'm not. In the nicest way possible, I wouldn't lose any sleep over Hugel being injured for a period of time because I would pick Nombe, Wyke, and Eves over him at the minute. Tihi's a bit different.
If you could get Jordan Hugel fired up, desperately wanting to play and make a name, it'd be an absolute massive, huge asset to us. I just think he's a bit nah. You know what I mean? I think that's how he comes across a bit. So anyway, whatever.
Final man says Hugel's injured his backside since he falls on it all the time. Very good. He mentioned they were injured, but there's no. From memory, he didn't mention any timescales or anything like that, or what the injury was. So,
yeah,
wait and see on that one.
Do you reckon we missed Christ? I mean, he's played every single game since he signed.
I think it forced Klukas to do something different, and I thought that hurt Klukas's game. It was for me, Klukas was anonymous, and I think that's because of what he had to do. But I agree. I think we missed him definitely.
He's a quality player, Tahi, a quality footballer, and his hours. So the bottom line is, he will probably be here next season unless we try and cash in on him.
He's got a relegation clause in his contract.
Well, yeah. We'll have to wait and see on that, but he'd be a massive asset in the division below.
He absolutely would. Anything else, boys?
Nah.
All good from me.
Good. We will be back next Sunday. No Thursday episode over the week this week because there's nothing unless there's major news. I don't think there will be. The next episode will be next Sunday. Mailbag episode. Yeah. We've already got some mailbag questions in. If you want to submit some questions, we will do our best to answer them in the hour that is given on next Sunday evening, same time and everything else like that. We started the WhatsApp. If anybody wants to send some messages across, we've got the QR code in the top right-hand corner of the screen with a
How have you got that right first time, Mick? I keep mixing my hands up.
I'll tell you why, Danny, because it's stuck on my living room wall.
Kelly, yes, we'll do the contracts. We'll do a rundown of contract situation next Sunday. I'll get something whopped up. Well, that's a question. I'll write your name, Kelly. Kelly Forbes. Well, that's the mailbag question done. If the WhatsApp and the number for the WhatsApp is also in the Twitter bio, X bio. So if you don't want to send your thoughts, of course, we'll put it together like we did Saturday morning. We'll have released Saturday morning with these guys' voices on there, plus some other Millers as well. If you want to get involved, please do so, and we'll pop them together, get something put out. Please do subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you have subscribed and go watch the instant reaction. There's a good bit of me and Mick whinging and Danny trying to hold it all together. And apologies, I'm really sorry for the camera work. Ben wasn't there. Ben's been playing American football today, so we had to rely on an 8-year-old, which I felt like I feel really bad. I feel like a terrible parent asking an 8-year-old to film. It shows, to be honest with you. So go have a look at that. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube next, actually. So if you want to watch that, make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. If you watch listening on iTunes or Spotify, again, make sure you've subscribed and give us a 5-star rating wherever it allows you to do so. I hope you all enjoy the international break. No real football to worry about unless you're Welsh. Fingers crossed. Danny, thank you very much, mate.
Yeah, no worries. I'll go and chuckle to that mic drop there, Matt. That was beautiful.
Tom, pleasure to have you back, mate.
Yeah, always good fun being on.
Good. And Nick, as always, you were kind to a referee. Can you stop doing that?
I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. We'll see you next time. And up the Millers.
Up the Millers.
The Millers.
Oh.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
international break kicked in already for Mick.
Oh,
it's
God.
what? Sorry.
International break kicked in already for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going now. See you later.
Slides into Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Foderingham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box for Doffin, he can hit them, and he does. The Doffin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favor, drop me off in Rotherham.